Hi, everybody. I am Dr. Anna Saylor with Every Family Chiropractic Center, and I want to come to you live about back to school stress and anxiety. So how to make this school year the best year ever. So I know we're just starting school again, and it's been a couple weeks, and the traditional stress that a lot of people are dealing with, we look at, the changes and the new routines and everything. So now we should see our kids evening out. So where routines are back, everything is ready and back on. So want to ask you some questions about how this school year can be better than last school year, or how you can make this school year the best year ever. So first, a little bit about me. My name is Dr. Anna Saylor. I practice in Royal Oak, Michigan, and I've been here for 20 years. And I'm a pediatric and family chiropractor. So we specialize in working with children. So that's the biggest thing. I have two beautiful little girls. So I have a second grader now. Her name is Bryden, and she's 7. And then I have a preteen. So my daughter Brick is going into 6th grade. So she's a middle schooler. So I am in the same thing, in the same places that a lot of you are. So dealing with elementary and then dealing with middle school, eventually going on to high school. So we're going to kind of break it down over the different ages, because each kid is different and each age range is different too. So what we're seeing now in the younger kids, if it's not taken care of, just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. I think that's a little bit about me. So I wanted to really talk about the 3 main things. So one of the things I want to talk about first is, what does stress look like, or what does anxiety look like in your child? It's one of the things I want to cover. Second thing is the 4 main causes of stress, and we're going to break them down into chunks and actually give you tips on how you can deal with each of those areas. And then thirdly, like I'm a chiropractor, how can chiropractic actually help your child, and why I'm even talking about stress and anxiety. Okay, so let's break it down. What does stress look like, or what does anxiety look like? And with younger kids, it looks different than older kids. So let's kind of focus on the younger and what that translates into as they age. So we actually have 2 different kinds of stress anxiety camps. So that's how I kind of call it. So number 1 camp is the fear-based anxiety. So fear-based is the child, and if this sounds like your child, chime on in and let us know. So fear-based, they're the kids that are afraid of everything. They're the kids that worry a lot. They tend to be the quiet kids. They're really shy. And you see that starting when they're really young. They're the young toddler that doesn't like that a lot of interaction with other kids. They tend to be more inward. So we talk about fear-based posture, like they tend to go in. So they're going to be like this a lot more, okay? Fear-based, they have trouble making friends. They are a little bit more low energy. So they're the ones that are more likely to sit on the couch, more likely to just kind of be quiet. As parents, we tend to worry a lot about them. So we worry more about our fear-based kids because we see them starting to withdraw. They don't want to engage. They don't want to engage with other kids. They don't want to engage with adults. They just don't engage as well and don't have the tools to engage as well. So that's more of our fear-based children. That leads to kids that are, as they age, they become more of the loners. They become more depressed. They are definitely the teenagers you see that are by themselves a lot more and more withdrawn, which is why I said we tend to worry about them more. So as parents, if this sounds like what you're dealing with, that's a fear-based anxiety or stress. And then we have the opposite. We have the stress-based kids. These kids are a completely different type of anxiety, and it appears very differently. So we have the ones, they are the high energy. They're the high output kids. They are not this, they're this. They're explosive. They have the anger. They have the tantrums. They're the ones that are really emotional. So they're also the ones that worry about a lot of things. So they're the spinners. So they're asking questions. Whys. What's going on? What's going to happen? What? And they're the ones that actually drive you a little crazy because, first of all, they're exhausting. Because they're not the stress-based, they're the fear-based. They are definitely much more about they're the exhausted kids. They don't sleep well. And then that translates into parents that don't sleep well. And then that translates into very, very exhausted families. They're the ones that are definitely more of a picky eater, we find. They're thinner because they're going, going, going. Their nervous systems are spinning constantly. It's never slowing down. Their highs are super, super high. But when they do have lows, they drop, I mean, just to the ground. So that's more the fear-based. We want to talk about how when they get older, fear-based kids are the ones that tend to be much more, they have outbursts, they get really angry. They're the teenagers that are slamming doors and just so frustrating because it's just, everything's a big deal. And it is a big deal to them. It's a really big deal to their nervous system. So, you know, you can't blame these kids too. So that's when let me kind of step back and say, you know, a lot of these kids have no control over what is going on because they don't have control of their nervous system. So if this sounds like your children, I want to give you some tools on how to calm their nervous systems down and how to balance the highs and bring the lows up. So it's all about balance. So that tends to be the two different camps with what we're dealing with stress and anxiety, and that's what it looks like. Okay, next. So what causes these kind of things? So we look at things differently in the chiropractic world. We look at things through the nervous system. You live your life through the nervous system. Children live their lives through the nervous system. Most people don't spend much time or energy on the nervous system or how it functions. We actually spend more time and energy on worrying about our kids and how they're brushing their teeth. So the nervous system controls everything. The brain controls everything. And so I want to talk about balance. And balance is, you know, you have two different things, and there's a beautiful chart behind me called the autonomic nervous system, and you have two different parts of it. And our analogy with it is we have a parasympathetic and a sympathetic side. So we talk about it as a gas pedal and a brake pedal. So really kind of easy way to think about it is, you know, to drive your car, you need a gas pedal and you need a brake pedal. You need both. Gas gets you to go, brake gets you to stop. So you need both of those to balance. So life is about balance. Nature's about balance. We want everything to be calm, okay? So think about this. If you were driving down the road and your gas pedal was stuck on and you're just flying down the road, can you manage your drive very well? A deer jumps out at you. Are you going to be able to stop quickly? Probably not, because your gas pedal's on. And this is what happens with these kids that are dealing with a lot of stress and anxiety. Their gas pedal is stuck on. They don't even have the brakes. So when they're going, and they're going full out 100% all the time. So when we look at the nervous system, we want to make sure that we're actually bringing into that brake and calming the nervous system down. That's the rest. That's the digest. So the other way to think about it is you got the fight. So fight is going to be your gas pedal. Rest and digest is going to be your brake. So kind of big things that's what we look like at chiropractically, what a difference we can make in their nervous system. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I want to talk about the four main things that cause stress and anxiety in kids. And this is not just kids, actually. This translates to you as parents. So we talk about them as the 4 T's. So really easy to remember. We have 4 T's. First T is trauma. And that's one of the big things. Most people know big traumas. And we're going to kind of dive into all the little traumas. So we have trauma. We have toxins. We have thoughts, which is stress. And we have the 4 T, which, you know, I've been here for 20 years. I have not had to deal with this 4 T for that long. 4 T, technology. So that T, that 4 T, that's only really been maybe, I mean, it's been bad the last 5 years and it's just getting worse. It's not going away. But that 4 T really affects all the other 3 T's. Okay, so we have to look at how we're filling our kids' bucket up and how those 4 T's are affecting us. So I kind of want to dive into each T and then give you some tips on how to manage those T's. So just kind of preface this. Every child's different. Every parent's different. All parents out there, you guys are doing amazing. You're doing the best job you can. So each of these tips is not for everyone. And so what I want you to do is take a couple tips. And you don't have to do it all at once, but take 1 tip a day or take things that you can do and go, okay, you know what? I can work on that T and I can start affecting my child and helping them live the happy, healthy life that they deserve. And then helping our family and helping me and helping all those things. Okay. So first T. I guess we'll talk about trauma first because that's the big one. That's the one that most people just, you know when your kid has a fall. You know when they're learning to walk. So let's start with the babies. They're learning to walk. How many times has your child fallen? Like, okay, a lot. How many times has your child learned how to ride a bike and fallen off that? How many times are they just walking and they just fall down? You're like, really? You didn't fall over anything. So the big traumas are those kind of things. But then we start looking at the little traumas on a daily basis that you don't even think. Behind me on the other side is the backpack. Being back to school. So we're looking at how the backpacks are affecting your children. Kind of making sure that it's light. So your child's backpack should weigh less than 10% if they're in elementary and less than 15% if they're an adult or in high school. And if you don't know how much it weighs, weigh it. It's simple. But I see kids all the time with super heavy backpacks with a bunch of stuff they don't really need, and they're actually wearing them very incorrectly, which is going to affect their posture. So you put a heavy backpack on, you're going to lean forward. It completely changes the neurology. So it's the little things like changing a backpack that makes a difference. And then we talk about things like posture when you're with your cell phone, posture when you're playing video games. So cell phones, just teaching teens, especially, I mean, it's not going away. It is what it is. Having pop sockets. So a pop socket and holding it up, because we're seeing these kids, okay, think about it. How many kids are like this? You're watching your phone right now. If you are, look at your posture. Are you looking down on it or do you actually have it up? Laptops. For me, laptops are probably one of the worst inventions ever because a laptop shouldn't go on your lap. A computer shouldn't go on your lap because as soon as you put it on your lap, your head is down. Your whole nervous system is being affected, which is why a PC that's actually in the right position. So those kind of little things can make a big difference in the trauma part. It doesn't seem like it's traumatic, but it's the daily things that add up. One little thing, one little thing, one little thing adds to really poor posture. Okay, so another big thing, video games. So that goes into the whole technology part of it, but the positional ways kids are sitting playing video games. So like the gaming chairs are beautiful. They actually keep kids in a really good posture. So if you have a child that loves to play video games, get him a gaming chair. Figure it out in your area. I had a young adult come in yesterday and tell me that he played the new Spider-Man game for 6 hours the day before. Okay, 6 hours. And I was like, okay, can you please take a break? Can you pause the game? He was like, I can't move my hand. So we had to adjust everything because he said he was in a tense position because it's a really intense game. I obviously have not played this game, but it's a new one and it's fabulous according to him. But he was in a really tense position for 6 hours. He's a young adult, so like obviously he's not going to school, but you have to look. I was like, okay, just take a break every hour, set an alarm on your phone, get up, pause the game, walk away, get a glass of water, go to the bathroom, something, So that's trauma, and 6 hours is a lot of trauma. Okay, so let's kind of talk and make sure that I covered some of the things. Another thing with trauma is sports. So what we're seeing now is kids are playing nonstop sports and they're playing the same sport through the years. What we used to have seasonal sports, so you would play soccer one season, you would play football one season, those are extending. So the repetitive motions that the kids are doing, the competition is super stressful. So we're using the same areas over and over and over again. Think about baseball. If you're a pitcher, how many times are you throwing? How many times are you repetitively using your shoulder over and over and over again? So I really love mixing it up as much as possible. And I know it's really hard. Our kids, like my youngest is a soccer player and she loves it. And she's only 7 and you see the competition already. She's already been playing for 2 years. So we look at the things like, how do we help our kids not do the repetitive injuries? And because repetitive injuries over a long period of time are going to get worse and worse and worse. So we teach things like how to stretch. We get them adjusted. We really work on changing things up, like using your left hand if you can for a little bit. Just taking a break would be wonderful. So that's another part of the trauma. But the biggest thing that brings most kids and actually most parents into our office is thoughts. Thoughts are what affect your body, and it's thoughts for us. We are dealing with so much. Kids are dealing with so much. The stress that these kids are on and under earlier and earlier and earlier, it's starting way earlier. So peer pressure, social media, the stress of school, homework is crazy. And I'm already seeing how much my first grader or second grader, I keep saying first, sorry. My second grader is already doing daily homework because that's what she has to do. So it's constantly, and they're just stressed. And that young stress becomes a bigger stress and a bigger stress and a bigger stress. Speaking of homework, kind of talking about posture-wise, making sure that your kids are doing homework in a really good space. And if you teach them when they're younger, they become better teenagers, study habits, those kind of things. But we make sure, like my youngest does homework at a table where she's sitting up in really good posture. Everything's where she needs it. She doesn't have to, I don't really like homework on a couch because then they're slouchy and they're doing it and they're not in a really good, comfortable position. But anything that you can do to make homework a better, much more consistent with homework is a good thing. So let's talk about kind of the other aspect of what you can do to help the thoughts. Because I know as adults, we tend to be our worst critics. The self-talk and the self-doubt and the things that we say to ourselves and the things that we say out loud to our children really affect us. So as a parent, we obviously want to do the best that we can possibly do for our children. And we want to have the self-talking that's positive and not the stress talk. One of the things that I love, and I'm not sure if you guys have heard about it, but it's a book called The 5 Love Languages for Children. And it's by Gary Chapman. It is brilliant, brilliant. And figuring out how your children and yourself, you should know your own love language. And if you're married, you should know your spouse's love language. So there's same 5 languages across the board. But for kids, it's super, super important to figure out what their love language is. And once you know their love language, once you know what makes them feel loved, because it doesn't necessarily have to be your love language, you can keep their bucket filled. Because what we see is kids that feel like they're loved become adults that are loved. And they can love in return. Okay, so breaking it down, I'm going to just kind of go through the 5 love languages because a lot of people have not heard of them. So there's 5 distinct love languages, and I will post later the Mom's Guide to the 5 Love Languages for Children. But if you do not have this book, please get the book. And it was a great audiobook too. It was great to listen to. So you have 5 love languages. And if this sounds like you, sounds like your children, usually you can really guess what your kids' love language is by the things they do. Okay, so if they're doing something outwardly, you can go, you know what, that's their love language. Okay, so number 1 is gifts. Number 2 is physical touch. Number 3 is acts of service. Number 4 is words of appreciation. And number 5 is quality time. So breaking them down, some of them are, no-brainers. Physical touch. They're the kids that hug and kiss and want to sit in your lap. They're the kids, my oldest daughter is physical touch. I'm physical touch. So 100% our love language is jibe. I'm a chiropractor. I work with my hands. I touch people all the time. So it's kind of like awesome. That's kind of maybe why I went into chiropractic. I don't know. But physical touch is, my daughter from the get-go has been, she's 11 now, and we still hug. She still sits on my lap. I still have to carry her, and she's getting really, really heavy. But it's part of her love language. And so when you recognize that as your child, think down, and I'll call my husband out on this one. If it's not your love language, it's not easy to do. So my husband's love language is not physical touch, okay? Not at all. His is words. Mine's physical touch. I had him put, when we were talking about this, a counter on his phone, and he had to hug me or kiss me 10 times a day. Doesn't seem like a lot, right? It seems like it should be a no-brainer, but when you go to work in the morning, you come home late, and you're doing things 10 times a day. But if I don't feel that, if my children don't feel that, and if your child's a physical touch child and they don't get hugged, they're not going to feel loved. Okay, you can give them all the gifts in the world. Gifts are nice, but it really does not make me feel loved. I don't really care about gifts. And ask my husband. It's all about the hugs. Okay, so physical touch is one. Second thing, obviously gifts. If your child's always giving you things, always drawing pictures for you and giving them to you and giving them to their friends, if they love giving you something, chances are gifts is their love language. And it doesn't have to be big things. So when you are doing things, little gifts, little pictures, little things for them, fill their love language. So if your child's gifts, figure out a way to give them something every day. Breaking it down here, they also talk about a stone you find, small inexpensive gifts. Giving them a flower, a stone you find outside, leave them gifts in their bed, different things. So that's gifts. Quality time. My youngest is quality time. And quality time just means they want to be with you. They want to be in the same room with you. They want to be around you. My daughter wants to sit next to me. So my youngest wants to be next to me, and she wants us to be doing things together. They're the ones that thrive on going to the store together. They're the ones that thrive on outings. They're the ones that thrive on date nights. My daughter just is like, let's just cuddle and watch a movie. That is quality time. And sometimes we all forget. Like she wanted, and you have to learn, but she needed to clean the basement the other day. And she was like, can you come down here? Can you come down here? And I was like, no, you clean the basement. But then I realized she just wanted me to be in that space with her, and learning how to recognize that, learning how to go, oh, you know what? She just needs me to be with her right now. Kind of back up with the physical touch. I remember when my daughter she was probably 6, and she's pretty, she's tall and big. And she asked my husband to carry her upstairs to bed. And he was like, you're 6, you can walk, And then I had to remind him that that's her love language. So she was asking for love. And it was the way kids ask, carry me, pick me up, hug me. So always looking at what the kids are asking for and being aware of them and giving them that. Okay, so we did gifts, we did physical touch, we did quality time, words of affirmation. These are positive thinking. These are, you did a great job. These are the kids that really need to hear it from you. I can tell you that's my husband's love language. It is not mine. Words of affirmation do not come naturally to me. I don't need to hear good job. I don't need to hear thank you very often. It's just not my nature, but it is my husband's. So I've had to learn how to say, you know what? Thank you, honey. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing this. He, like looking at what his love language is, he writes notes, and I'll show you, to the girls. So he writes, this is to Bryden, and it says, I love you because you're very patient. Love, Dad. And then this one was to Brick, and it says, I love you because of how dedicated you are to getting your homework done. So his love language is words of affirmation. So he likes to write things, but it also hits both. Like as kids, they need to hear it. So these are found all up, hanging all the time in their room. Left on their pillow, left, my youngest has a loft bed, so it's always left where she can see it. If he travels, he writes notes, because we all need all of them, because we might have one primary and a secondary, but you also look at how you can help your children with that are words, how you can make them feel better. My mom is words of affirmation. So I've had to learn how to say thank you to my mother. So if you're watching, Mother, thank you. Thank you for being the best mom ever. That is, and it's not natural to me. It really isn't, because I just don't do it because it's not me. But when you learn what your children's love language is, you learn how to fill their bucket up. Okay. And then last, acts of service. So acts of service are going to be kids like that you're doing things for them. So things like, and I'll read these, they like when you help with their chores. They love when you make them meals. They like when you drive them places. So the things you can do is work on projects together, surprise them by doing a chore together. They like when you do things. So it's different when you think about if you're always doing, if you're the person that always does the dishes and always cleans up and always does these things, that's probably your love language too. So that's acts of service. So that kind of breaks it down to how you keep your kids' love language filled. So hopefully that was really helpful. Please get the book. I highly, highly recommend it, because when you finally figure it out, kids that are felt that feel love in the way they need to feel loved become happy, healthy adults. Okay, so moving on from love languages. And so we kind of want to go back through thoughts a little bit more. Thoughts also, things that, routines. Okay, so, and this is how you can help your stress and how you can keep your stress down with your children. We're very routine in our house, and obviously it doesn't work for everybody, but we have very, very routine mornings, we have very routine afternoons, and very routine nights. And no, we have lots of fun, but we've learned that a wake up time that's very, very the same time every morning, a bedtime that's the same time, and very things that we do all the time really help keep us all on track. Consistency here is the key. Consistency wins the game. Good bedtime, but we also have, like, my oldest daughter has her routine, my youngest daughter has her routine, and it's really based, now that I look at it, it's based on their love languages. So quality time with my youngest daughter means that I have to go in and sit down, we read a book on the floor, we do a very specific kiss each night, and then she goes up and she reads. And then my husband comes in and he has his routine with her, and it's a little different than what my routine is, but it's still quality time. My oldest is different because hers is physical touch. So she goes to bed at a certain time and she goes up and she has her routine and she reads. And then I go in and I lay down in bed with her and we just talk. And as teenagers, I'm realizing, like, we haven't done it as often as I used to. I used to do it every single night. And I don't want to stop doing that, because even though she's older, she still needs her mom. She still needs her parents. So, and I think really our teens need us more than we ever thought, than even toddlers do. So I want to make sure that I'm really conscious of making sure that I keep with that routine. Another couple of things is systemize, making routines so that things don't stress you out. My daughter puts her clothes out every night, and she knows what she's going to wear in the morning. So our mornings are super easy. Those are the kind of things. So thoughts, and anything that helps with the thoughts. So we went through trauma, we went through thoughts. Third T, toxins. So toxin can mean a number of things. Toxins can mean what you put in your body, what you don't put in your body, what you're putting on your body, what you're surrounding yourself with. So we all know that we need to eat well. We all know that our kids should eat well. It seems so easy, right? And then we have life, and then we have activities, and then we have things that go, 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 go. And how do you make your kids eat better? And then if they're picky eaters, how do you help them as picky eaters? So some tips that I have used that really help us. I make protein shakes the first thing in the morning. And most people are like, a protein shake? I found the kind that the girls like. Both girls, the first thing I do is I get up in the morning, I work out, and then I make my 3 protein shakes for each girl. And then when they are up, as soon as they come down, they grab the shake. I put their vitamins in it now, so I'm learning how to blend their vitamins into their protein shake. But I know that it's starting their day off right. So how many are guilty of not eating in the morning? Okay, or how many are guilty of not eating good things? So I look at it as, when you find the right thing for the kids, they're going to be fueled through the day. So that's what we do. We've learned protein shakes for both my girls are fabulous. My youngest is definitely more sensitive to carbs. So she has never been the breakfast eater. Like, she is not the cereal eater. She is not the pancake eater. It just sends her off the rails. She needs protein, and she knows it. She's 7. She'll tell you, I need protein. I need an egg. I need something to fuel my body. She came home the other day from school and told my husband that there's no real food at school, so she would like him to make her lunches every day. It's kind of interesting coming from a 7-year-old that she already sees that there's no real food. And when she says real food, she doesn't like processed stuff that much. So our goal with her is teaching them the tools now to eat better down the road. My oldest is definitely a picky eater. She's my herder child. And, I look at her, I'm like, she used to eat avocados and used to eat all this stuff, and where did we go wrong? But you have to learn how to navigate that. Looking at, if you don't keep it in the house, they're not going to have it. So as a parent, it's my responsibility of what I'm going to keep in the house. We don't have pop. My kids have never had pop. They are water drinkers, and they've been water drinkers, and we are all water drinkers. So we've been looking at that tip. Are your kids drinking pop? Maybe it's something that you can get rid of. It's something that they don't need. My funny story, when my daughter was 4, my oldest daughter, she came home from my mother-in-law's house, and she says to me, "Did you know McDonald's has food?" Yeah. McDonald's has food. And I was like, okay, well, talk to me about that. She was 4. We had never been to McDonald's. She had no clue. First of all, she thought it was a farm. And then second of all, she thought it was a coffee shop, because the only time we had ever stopped at McDonald's was to get coffees on the road if we had a road trip. And so she said, my mother-in-law was like, wait, I always take the grandchildren to McDonald's. And, she had a cheeseburger and she had apples and she had water. I was like, okay, no big deal. All right. My daughter was so sick. All the way home in the car, she groaned and moaned with her stomach and how bad she felt, because she had never had a cheeseburger from McDonald's. And I'm actually really glad it happened, because she refuses to ever have a cheeseburger from McDonald's, because she just was like, she still had that vision of how gross it was to her body and how she had to go to the bathroom and all those wonderful things that, like there's no real food. But it also, we have to look at, I understand. We're all busy and we're on the road and we're trying to make better choices. So looking at the things that you can do when you're traveling. We have a huge snack drawer at our house, and it's filled with healthy snacks. So my kids are snackers, and I've learned from the get-go. We have this drawer, and it's anything in that drawer they can eat. So granola bars and just random stuff that are in there. And all our friends' kids come over and they know we have snack drawer, but it's not the bad snacks. It's anything that I would be comfortable feeding my children and feeding other kids. And that's always been a really nice thing. But my youngest is a fruit eater. She eats fruit nonstop. She would eat 24/7. She would eat fruit, and that's her snack. So thinking about the things that you can do to make sure that your kids are eating the right things, getting fuel into their body, because our bodies are made for fueling. So that's the toxin. A couple other things, like you look at outside, like, what kind of cleaning supplies are you using? And you could go down the rabbit hole. And I know that as a parent, you pick your battles, you do what you can, but looking at the things that you can help clean up, are your kids taking vitamins? I've learned now I'm putting them in the shake because it's just easier, or finding the vitamins that they like. Okay, so that covers toxins. Last thing is technology. Okay, technology is kind of the biggest thing that we're really fighting against right now, because it is here and it's here to stay. So a couple things that we just implemented in our house is we got a Norton Core, and I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it turns our Wi-Fi. We can set passwords and time limits on our Wi-Fi. So I'll have to let you know how that one works, because we have limits in our house and it just shuts off. And the first time it happened, my kids were like, what? Are you sure? So it's still in process and still changing. But things like turning off the Wi-Fi, and I love it because I have an app on my phone. So I already told her, like, if you ever get in trouble, guess what's going off first? The Wi-Fi. Looking at, how often are they playing outside? How often are they going and doing things that are outside and getting the air they need? Right now it's beautiful. The sun's out and it's warm, and go outside and play. Go outside and play with your kids. So technology is it's one of those things we're just fighting. And I know we talked about the text neck. I have a pop socket, and I make sure that I'm not constantly straining my neck. But it's chiropractic too. We work on the posture a lot here. So anything else with technology? I think that's covering it. Okay, so those are the 4 T's that cause issues with the body. And if you can look at the 4 T's and how you can help any of those 4 T's, and it's just the little things. And like I said, consistency is the key. It's the daily things, taking out the little things, like, okay, that was a T, or this is a stress, and this is a thought that I'm working on, and this is how can I help their nervous system calm down. So those are the 4 T's. So let's go back to first of all, I'm a chiropractor. Why am I talking to you about this? How can chiropractic possibly help anything that we're talking about? So like I said, nervous system controls everything. Brain controls everything. Garbage in, garbage out. So we look at the nervous system and we look at the body very, very differently. So we look at, like you live your life through the nervous system. So we're looking at how the kids are wired, and we're seeing kids that are wired really, really tightly at the beginning, and it just keeps translating and getting worse as they age. So kind of looking back at the kids, the little kids. So if you are a fear-based or a stress-based child that becomes a fear-based, stress-based teen that becomes an adult, if we can stop it when they're young, if we can help when they're young, it never becomes translating as they age. I'm a family practice. tons of babies here, tons of toddlers, tons of teenagers in our practice. If you were to sit in our practice in our waiting room for 5 minutes, you're going to see the most amazing kids. You're going to see happy kids. You're going to see healthy kids. You're going to see happy teenagers. How crazy is that? Happy and healthy teenagers that talk and are outgoing and are active, and because they understand something, their parents understand something that you might not know, that their kids live their lives through the nervous system. And when it's functioning optimally, everything is better. The physical component, the chemical component, and the emotional component. All of those three things affect the body's nervous system. So our job as chiropractors is to look the causes, the whys, the behind the scenes of why they became where they are. And we would take a huge, long, in-depth history and find the different things. But the biggest thing you should take away from this is chiropractic makes a huge difference in their nervous system. It brings the highs down, it brings the lows up. So when we're looking at those fear-based or stress-based kids, we learn about balancing them. We're balancing their nervous system. So that's the biggest thing. The brake pedal is basically the chiropractic adjustment. So gas pedal is the go, go, go. The brake is when we actually bring the nervous system online, calm it down, and actually let the body heal, the rest, the digest. You can't be in growth and protection at the same time. You can't. You can't be like this, and rest at the same time. You have to learn how to manage it. Okay, so I will answer any questions if anybody has them, but send me a message if you have more questions about what I talked about. I will post a couple of the different resources that I have here. The biggest thing is if you have a thought that maybe chiropractic can help you, please call us. We are happy to talk to you about anything that we talked about today. And if you have any questions, please send me a message. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next Tuesday at 9 a.m. Have a fabulous day, everyone. See you later. Bye.